All right, guys, I am so looking forward to this. Today, we are talking with Sheri Salata. Sheri's a writer, a producer, and the co-host of the podcast, The Sheri and Nancy Show. And she's also the co-founder of thepillarlife.com. Now, her current adventures are an extension of her 20-year career with Oprah Winfrey. Now, over that time, she served as executive producer for the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she was also co-president for Harpo Studios and the Oprah Winfrey Network. How about that? But after years of telling other people's makeover stories and chronicling so many inspiring journeys, Sheri decided to produce her own life transformation. And this meant digging into her past successes and her setbacks. I mean, excavating the lessons that she'd learned and boldly, and I mean boldly, reimagining her own future. Now, out of that, she wrote her best-selling book, The Beautiful No, and other tales of trial, transcendence, and transformation, which is beautifully and authentically, it chronicles her journey. Now, some might say it's equal parts cautionary tale mixed in with some stand-up comedy, solid life strategies, and a really, really loud middle of your life rebel yell. I loved it. It's a powerful and fun example of someone giving themselves permission to choose to dream bigger, to think differently, and do even more of what they were put on the planet to do. And that also means sometimes laying down some really good stuff and boldly moving it into a new season on your own terms. You can see that's why I'm so excited to talk with Sheri. So let's get to this. Sheri, welcome to Dream, Think, Do.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, this is fun, and this is a long time coming, and I left so much out. I honestly, my first version of your intro was 45 minutes long. If I'm going to read this whole thing, but one of those things was even you actually went to school at the University of Iowa, which is just down the road from me.
I'm an Iowa Hawkeye.
How about that? Like, we're almost family, for crying out loud.
We're almost family to the core. In fact, when I heard that you were from Iowa and lived in Iowa, my heart swelled. I mean, there's really, when I think about the University of Iowa and Iowa, in any way, shape, or form, there's something that has changed in my literal DNA. I love it so much.
I love that. And there is something special about Iowa. I've gotten to live all over the world, and it brought me back, not because I was captured, but because I wanted to be here, and I love it. So I'm so glad you have those feelings. And I am so glad we're having this conversation. I just wish it could be 4 hours long because we've got so much to talk about. I put this out. I let Dream Think Doers know you were going to be on the show. Got so many questions flooded in. So we're going to go after some of the listener lightning round questions here in a little bit, but I've got questions I want to ask. Okay. So we could go for hours and hours about some of the amazing stories you've had with Oprah Winfrey and on the show and with OWN and all of those. And you do such a beautiful job of capturing that in the book. And the book, let's just talk about it. We're going to dive right in because I think for Dream Think Doers, there's so many things they will love about this book, love from your story. But part of it is that truly what I mentioned in the intro, you giving yourself permission to reimagine life, to lay some things down, not because they were terrible, but because it was just time. So I want to go back to that. Now, the book is called The Beautiful No and Other Tales of Trial, Transcendence, and Transformation. And you asked some really real, really raw questions like, is it okay to reimagine your life? Is it okay to restart, to do something new, and to have new dreams, different dreams? I think it's so good. Let's take us back to that moment, though, where you started to give yourself permission to do this because you were at the top of your game. You were in a position that most people would say is the Everest of your career.
Top of my game, that's what it looks like. Which is always that's peeling back those layers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think, to give it all context, it took me forever to find my path.
Yeah.
I had a 20-year career with Oprah Winfrey. And I didn't walk in the door until I was 35.
35.
So, it's people think, oh, you got a television degree, a film and television degree, and you just hatched like an egg and wobbled your way right over to the Oprah show. Oh, no contraire.
Right.
No contraire. I mean, toy store manager, 7-Eleven store manager.
Not to mention, you actually helped to deliver a baby in a 7-Eleven parking lot. Come on.
In a parking lot. I sure did. Hello,
I
whoever.
love it.
You owe your life to me, someone.
That's right. Young man
And
somewhere in the world. Yeah.
somewhere.
Oh, I love
So
it.
yeah, so it was, and I was tortured. I was
Yeah.
tortured because I was looking for significance, and I wanted that big dream. But for me at the time, my big dream was a fancy business card and a
Mm,
briefcase and the trappings of success.
yeah.
And so then it's like, maybe I should go to law school. I mean, it was just crazy business. So I walked in as an entry level promo producer, um, and into Harpo Studios, and I'd had enough challenging jobs.
Yeah.
I'd had enough twists and turns on my dream path to know that, wow, this is freaking fantastic.
Right. This is
That,
the real deal, people.
whoa,
Yeah. Because I
and
know
some of
some of
the,
the people around you were like, this was first job, those kinds of things. You
yeah, and
were
you
coming in
get
entry level.
jaded really fast. I'm like, look
Exactly.
at this coffee bar, it's free. Look at this, and oh my gosh, we all have free Uggs. This is amazing. I knew. I mean, really, I had enough perspective. I'd
Yeah.
had enough failure and
Yeah.
disappointment. I'd had enough corporate experience to go, wow, I'm like in a magical fantasy land. And even though, I'm human too, there were times as the years went on, I'd be like, this is so hard, and I'm complaining just like anybody else. But, at my core, I always knew that there was a mystical destiny, law of attraction, opening my hands, like letting the universe deliver and not trying to force things. There were so many lessons tied up in that. So off I went, and honestly, I had gotten some really great advice from a former boss because I'm like, I'm here, oh my gosh,
I'm in the door. Yeah.
but my job's not that great, but I'm so happy to be here. And I remember he said, don't you worry about what job you're in, because I know how dedicated you are and how much you give. Just put your head down, do the job, and I predict Oprah will pluck you out.
Wow.
And over time, his prophecy and his advice was the best advice, and his prophecy was true, in that I never worried about what my next step was or what my next role was. And that the leap from promo producer to executive producer is impossible.
Right.
Like how that even happened, it's like the fairies of the universe conspired for that. But so I say that to say, it's like bigger job, lots of attention for the job, more money, and it feels very dreamy. And but I always was a little stressed. I mean, it felt like brain surgery.
Well, I know
And
that you, in one interview, you said that your life was a little bit like, was 80 to 90 hour weeks when you were at the pinnacle of it.
yeah,
And it was like you were putting together 2 weddings a day. And when
yeah,
you'd get done, you were getting ready for the 2 weddings that were tomorrow.
it
So I know it was very demanding. And I also love your humility, appreciate your humility, because there's a lot of hard work. I mean, yes, maybe there was some blessings and some luck in there, but I think you're right that wisdom is foundational to say, all right, I'm going to hold loosely to my expectations. I'm going to hold loosely to how this is supposed to go. And I'm going to put my head down and get to work. And that's what you did.
Yes. And that sense of appreciation, like, I've seen the world. This is pretty great. Even when it's bad, it's
right.
really, really good.
It's better than that. It's better than the 7-Eleven.
Sure. But I will also say what that kind of, rocket ride of success can do, it can camouflage the nooks and corners of your life that aren't quite so great.
Yeah.
The ways you aren't taking care of yourself, the ways that you don't have your own back, the undeveloped, I call them those areas, my unlived life.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that one part was so big and pulsating and juicy and required so much of me to do it well that that it was very easy to be like, yeah, I'll get to that later. So I think
right.
we got through the end of the show. for anybody who, watched at the time or has an understanding of television, that the final season, lots of expectation, pulling all kinds of rabbits out of hats. And for me, my job is to lead the team in delivering a season that's worthy of the legacy. So having done that and landed that, and so proud of what everybody contributed, to then go to a cable network that's not doing well.
Yeah.
An industry that I don't know anything about, and to have to join hands with a few colleagues and work to right that ship and try to get it in some sort of cohesive manner that would align with Oprah's vision. That was really brutal.
I bet.
So that was going back and forth between Chicago and LA for 5 years. So I say that to say that in that breath of finishing the show, those challenging 5 years of helping OWN find its feet.
Yeah.
Then there's a moment for a pause, like, okay, how's your life doing?
Yeah.
And the answer was not very good.
Yeah.
The answer was not great. The answer was those voices, those feelings would not be dismissed.
Yep. Well, I love what you talk about in the book with that too, is that I do think that, that moment is a lot of people have that moment, but oftentimes people have that realization or even start to see it coming up over the hill and they put their head back down and they either bury it in distraction or some kind of narcotics or, drink or whatever. And you
had already done all that.
That was old news. That didn't work. Right. Exactly.
Chardonnay. So
I love it. I love it.
Scared, but I've done all that.
Yeah.
I've done all that. So then the thing is, it's just time.
Yep.
It's just time. It's just time. It's the ride has come to an end. And you're out in Los Angeles. I'm meeting all kinds of 20-year-olds who are running their own businesses. And I'd question them. I'd be like, well, how do you spend your day? Oh, it's really hard. I'm under so much stress, Sheri. Yeah, but how do you spend your day? Well, first I do go to my yoga class.
Right.
Then I meet my friends for brunch. And I was like, you do, and just
what? Yeah.
Beginning to understand that even with all my success, and certainly I had achieved quite a bit, I still was not the captain of my own fate.
Yeah.
I still had to report for duty. I still had to put in for vacation days. And it wasn't, it was kind of like the beckoning for maybe there is a new life for me where I'm not always looking through a pair of glasses to deliver for somebody else, but I'm making creative decisions according to what I want,
right,
and what I think is best. And the beginnings of that dream, as that began to stir, that started to feel pretty good.
Yeah. Well,
and
I would think, sorry to interrupt you, but I do think that it's interesting, with talking with successful people, we talk about success. Of course, we want to bring excellence. We want to, whatever that task is, we want to do it at our best. We want to help as many people, reach as many people, deliver, whatever we promised, all of those things. With success, obviously that's what we aspire to, but success can be dangerous in that success can be one of those things that can make people risk less, right? Like once you've had success or notoriety or, some of the accolades, all of that, it can be even more or feel more risky to go and pursue something new. So I wanted to talk about that for you. How did you give yourself that permission to say, I'm going to do something new? I'm going to take a risk and risk potential failure, whatever that might mean, to say, but I'm going to do this. Maybe you're more mentally stable than I am and you don't wrestle with some of the negative voices in your head, but how did you make that decision?
One thing is I'm going to challenge that.
Yeah.
And not to say, I'm going to challenge that. And so I'm going to say, and what you're saying,
I love it.
true for somebody. And I also think you can use your great success and knowing that I've been here a million times. I know how, I mean, that's
Good.
kind of my success as a producer.
Yeah.
Like, is that light grid going to fall and kill 1,000 people? You know, I've been here a million times and I have faith in this team and this person.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. So there also is, you know, even though the rest of my life wasn't running that great, and I had a real reckoning to do about what is the life of my dreams? Is it this? Is it just working, working, working? And for someone else, even if that someone else is, you know, fabulous and a beloved icon, you know, or have my dreams changed?
Yeah.
And I think that that's, I would say my experience, my 20-year experience, and the long road that even to get to the Oprah show, I have a very, very, very solid sense that I can bounce off that at any time.
Yeah.
There's nothing I haven't seen. There's nothing I can't navigate. That, you know, if I end up in the deep end of the pool, I'll come up for air.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in that. So that is my story
Yep.
for myself about me and opportunity and challenge and what's next.
And would you say,
I
have
think
you
the thing,
always had that? Or would you say that that's something that happened later as an executive, you know, kind of later in your career? Or would you say, did you have that when you were a manager at 7-Eleven? Did you have that,
I
you know,
did.
I
I think I
wonder.
did.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
So
I
that's
did.
something that's been deep in you.
I think I did. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's like the easy stuff I could screw up on, but if you said it's do or die, I'd bet on me. It's do or die. If it doesn't happen, the world's gonna, the ceiling's gonna fall in on our heads. I would bet on me that I will figure it out and find a way, because that kind of intensity, that dramatic story
Yep.
activates something in me.
I love
That
it.
is, we shall not fail.
That's right. We are going to make it, right? I love that. And I think that is a choice. I think for some people that might be more a part of their DNA. For others, it
Yeah.
might have to be more of a choice that they cultivate. But I do, you know, the people that we interview that have been successful in so many different areas, it seems like there has to be that, like that belief that, hey, things may not be easy and they probably won't be, but I'd bet on myself. And
And
I think
listen,
that's huge.
even when I could do that, there were times when I didn't value myself, when I was struggling I had some weird achievement and worth issues. Like
Sure.
that was in an inextricable tangle. But so yes, and all of that. It wasn't like I had unassailable confidence. It was that when my back's against the wall, I'm going to figure it out, and I will find a way. And so to kind of wrap up that question, here was the fear. The fear was not what's going to happen, will I be successful? The fear is, am I ever going to have the life of my dreams?
Whew.
Because I see that I don't.
Mm.
You know, even with all this achievement, it's not the life of my dreams yet.
I love that you were able to recognize that fear as being the bigger thing to go after, right?
Yeah.
Like I think because the fear of, oh, I could fail or this might not go well. I mean, that's a very real fear for a lot of people, but to realize the bigger fear for you is that you might miss out on the life you were meant to live. You might miss out on the dreams that could be achieved yet, you know?
Yeah,
And I love that was the bigger fear driving you
for sure.
as opposed to the fear of failure or it not going well. So I love that. Now, one of the other things, there's so many great things, so many great stories in the book, but I love how you also speak to ruts. And I think that that's also a really interesting thing, especially, you know, with Dream Think Do, as you can imagine, we got a lot of successful people that listen to Dream Think Do. And I think, you know, your discussion on ruts was just so touched on something that is so vital, because ruts aren't something that people wake up in the morning and go, oh, today's my day to start out a rut. You know, like,
Right.
it's like, I am so going to pick my rut and get right into it. I
Yeah.
loved how you talked about, you know, ruts are something that sneak up on you. And I think even more so for successful people, because successful people aren't called as much to question their
Right.
lifestyle, question the ruts that we find ourselves in. Talk to me a little bit more about that revelation and how you started to really break out of some of those ruts.
Well, listen, my own story is that, from the time I left Iowa City and the University of Iowa, I was a staff person.
Yeah.
So what that means is somebody else is setting a schedule, and you are like, whether it's 8 to 5 or, 8 to midnight, whatever it
Exactly.
is, um, you are, there's some patterns and structure superimposed on your life. And then there's patterns that form out of that, which is
Yeah.
you drive the same day to work every day. I
Yep.
mean, at Harpo Studios, I drove the same ride exact same way to and from work every day for 10 years at one house, 10 years at another. And it's only when you take a different route, you go, whoa, 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 what's happening? And then you can start to realize that the problem with a rut is those sides slowly come up on either
Yep.
side of you. So you cannot, until you are forced to put your head up over the side of it, you don't even know you're in one.
Yep.
So I would say it's in my first year of freedom, where I make
Yeah.
all the choices about how I spend my time, I started to do some things that, were bucket list things. Like I tell a story about this crazy knife skills class that Sheri Salata offers that I said every year in Chicago for 20 years I was going to do. And finally, I'm like, I'm taking that class. And even though I was going to cancel, I made myself go, and I was terrible at it. And the chef kept calling me out. I'm like, okay, I got you, holding the knife wrong. But when it was done, I'm like, what is this feeling I'm feeling?
Yeah.
I'm feeling something. And I came up with this moniker. I called it Fresh Joy.
Mm.
It wasn't familiar. It wasn't routine. It wasn't same old, same old. I'm like, I feel a tingling. Like I'm kind of excited, and it's over something simple and
Yeah.
silly, but it's a new feeling for me. And so I really set out to, okay, I'm going to kind of stir up that fresh joy every way I can by doing things that either I said, moving from the bucket list to the life list.
Yeah.
No, or gosh, I'd really like to take Italian. I'd say that until I was 90 years old in my old life. In my new way of thinking, I signed up and started going. And again, terrible in that.
I love the
My
story in
instructor,
the book.
oh, Sheri. I'm like, he'd ask me a question. I'm like, I need my papers. I can't answer you. But I drive out of there going something. It's like my brain is a little scrambled.
Yep.
My energy is shifted. There's something fresh and new about that. And I'm like, that is going to be the key.
Yep.
To keeping that life force pulsating and powerful to the end of my days.
I love that. And what I love too is you've given yourself permission to do these experiments, not to say, well, I'm going to take the Italian class so I can turn that into a business or a career.
Right.
You're giving
Right.
yourself these chances. I love fresh joy. I think that's such a great phrase. That'll probably be the name of this episode. But I love that because I think that is something that anybody could start to do right now, whether a major career change is imminent or not. We can go out and have those new experiences, giving ourselves to have, that chance to have that taste, that new thing,
Yes.
And to stretch yourself and to know. And again, guys, read the book because you'll go right along with Sheri on some of those adventures and know that many of them did not go the way to plan, but so good, so good. And I think that is so powerful, so important. So, oh my gosh, this is great, and we could keep going. I just want to, but we got to switch over and we got to get to some of these listener lightning round questions. So, like I told you, I put it out to the Dream Think Do family. We got flooded with potential questions, but I picked a couple of my favorites here, and we're gonna try to go just about 2 minutes per. All right. So we'll have some fun with this. So Stephanie Ritter Matt, she asked, wow, Sheri's really held some impressive positions. It's true. How does she stay creative at all levels? And what words of advice does she have for someone trying to stay creative themselves?
Stephanie, that is a great question.
Yes.
And here's what I'm going to say. This is my big revelation. everything's creative.
Oof.
How you make your coffee is creative. How you decide to make your own nut milk is creative.
Yeah.
So it isn't something that you have to drum up out of nowhere. All you have to do is just notice you're being creative at all times. The way you put a story together in your head about what you're doing, the way you decide how you're going to plan your day, and just infuse that story you tell yourself in your own head over and over with the idea of, I am so creative. My life is so creative. This planet is just a beehive of creativity where things are being born and transforming. And I think when you just pay a little bit more attention to that, you're going to see everything's creative.
I love that. I love that. That is, when you see that fountain of creativity around you, it inspires you to stay creative yourself. I love that. That's so good. And that was less than 2 minutes. Home run, woman. Home run. Okay, I love it. All right, Tracy Mercer Browning. By the way, there was about a paragraph about how excited she is about this episode. So I will leave that out. Just know she's excited. She said, I would love to ask Sheri, what does she think one of the most important things to dream, to think, and to do for a woman who's reinventing herself in the middle of life?
Oh,
How
Tracy,
about that?
that's so good. All right, so here's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
Here's the first thing, that it's never too late to live the life of your dreams.
Amen.
The story that you're thinking, that you're telling yourself is, I am worthy of living the life of my dreams. And the doing piece is this. I think we have marginalized and it's because it's a greeting card thing now, the power of actual dreaming.
Yeah.
So one of the practices I instituted in my own life about 4 years ago is every day I carve out a 15-minute daydream.
Nice.
And this isn't my meditation. This isn't my other practices. This is literally, I just start stirring the dream pot. I go area of life, area of life, area of life. Well, what's my new dream here? What's my new dream here? Because I guarantee you, until you sit down and making the practice of dreaming a daily practice in your life, you don't even know what your dreams are anymore.
Right.
They're not what they were 10 years ago. They aren't what they were 5 years ago. You're riding on some old dream thoughts. You need to stir the pot and decide, what are my new dreams? And you do that every day for 15 minutes and watch what happens.
I love that. That is truly one of those activities that helps you see over the walls of that rut you may or may not know you're in, and allow you to aspire to something new. Gold. All right. That was under 2 minutes too. You are rocking it. Okay. Mona Kit Everson said this, I think you'll love this. What was one of your most important aha moments as a leader?
Oh, okay. Mona, oh my gosh. Well, you're going to be surprised to hear this. My most important aha moment happened recently.
Interesting.
Like I would say, I was on the book tour
Yeah.
For The Beautiful No, and I had a couple major epiphanies. Like I had written a book about all my epiphanies, and then all my good epiphanies were coming on the book tour. But here was a big one. Here is the new way I see leadership. The most important thing about leadership, that and it will be the absolute truth. It will never change till the end of time, is lead thyself.
Oof.
That's the only person you have to lead really, really well is yourself, because when you do that, everything else falls into place. Yep. And I would say that is the thing most in my career in leadership that I struggled with.
Interesting.
Because I thought it was all about the outside.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, how you leading yourself? Never mind about that. I've got
all these people. Right. We're not talking about me right now. Yes.
That's right. Lead thyself.
Wow. That is gold. And I love the fact that came on the hindsight, doing the book tour, all of that, like this, the new adventures lead to new revelations, right? So, I mean, I know you've led huge teams and organizations, right? But sometimes it's the revelation that comes later that is so true. I love it. All right. Helen Sidness Kaufman asked, she said, oh my gosh, her work with Oprah must have been so demanding. What's one key? This is another leadership question.
Mm.
What's one key for motivating a staff and a team in really busy times?
Helen. Well, it is, I'm gonna stick with the essential basic truth, which is lead thyself.
Yep.
Like, am I inspired? Am I inspired
Ah,
myself? Am I a font of energy? Am I exuding positivity and belief and positive expectation? Or am I saying that and then drinking the 50 lattes that everybody can see me doing so they know I'm stressed? There's a thing that I used to do that I would put my hair up when I really had to focus, usually in the control room,
yeah.
and I would start sticking pencil in my ponytail until it would be like it would literally be like this weird funky pencil hat. And by the number of pencils I had, the team could figure out how stressed I was.
Oh
That's
boy,
not
it's a 6 pencil day. It's a
that's
seven
not
pencil
good.
day.
I'm going to tell you right now that it's a little funny now, but that's not
Yeah.
good. So I go back to that, which is, really tend to your own energy field.
Yeah, that is so true. It is so true. It's amazing. We've done training, leadership training, and one of the biggest conversations is how do you lead an engaged team? How do you inspire a team to be fully engaged? How do you inspire an individual to bring their best work? And they said that, all of the research that's out there, they said that the most important element is that their leader is engaged. Right. So it is that leader lead thyself. Like if we are going to if we want an engaged team, if we want a peaceful team, if we want a team that brings excellence, we need to do those things.
That's
And
right.
I love that. I love that.
I'm
And I
going to add
so
one little
appreciate.
one
Yeah,
little
go.
Iowa story for you. This will be
Yeah.
super quick. So I just did a video tribute for a professor who retired after like 45, 48 years,
Wow.
Rabbi Jay Holstein. And he taught the class Quest for Human Destiny, which was done in a gigantic auditorium. I took it my sophomore year, with 500 other students. And he's the only teacher I remember, the
Wow.
only one that I personally remember. You know why I remember him? And because at the back of that auditorium, there is this guy down on this little stage in the center who's talking about something he loves so much.
Wow.
He loved those topics.
Yep.
He loved those lectures. He loved them so much that all these years later, 35, all these years later, I remember him and
Yep.
how much he loved it. And because of how much he loved it, that is my most memorable favorite class I ever took.
That's
There you go.
incredible. Isn't that amazing? Like that is the picture of somebody loving their work. I mean, they talk about it. It's like how do you feel when you see someone do that work, or when you see somebody speak or tell a
Right.
story? It's like, how do they make you feel? And when they love it, you can't help but get that some of that on you, right? So
Right.
I so appreciate that. That's brilliant. Okay, well, let's talk real quick. Let's get people to up to date. Obviously, the book has been something you've been very busy with, but
Yeah.
what else? What's going on in Sheri's life right now? What's one of your big projects right now?
Well, I am super excited. I'm going to step out and I'm going to do something. I've been asked to do it for a couple years. I'm finally going to launch a digital program
Awesome.
that is like a 12-week experience with me. And it's kind of based on the book. It is a transformational journey. It is using writing your story to create transformation in your life. And what I'm really excited about, and I got the idea when I really decided to do it, is when I would start talking to people about their stories.
Yep.
Listen, I didn't want to really write this book. I almost quit 3 times. I'm like, I don't want to be telling people all of that. But what I realized is that's where the light comes.
Yep.
When you start having real conversations with people about your vulnerability, about your fears, about your failures, about the times things didn't work out for you,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden it's like, me too, me too, me
Yep.
too. and from that connection, we all rise up together. So I'm putting it together. I'm working on it right now. It's going to be fantastic. I think I'm going to have the time of my life doing it.
I totally agree. And it's so needed. So I love that. How do people find out more about that and more about you? What's the best way? We'll put it all in the show notes, but what's the best way for somebody that's just listening to track you down and find out?
SheriSalata.com.
There we go.
SheriSalata.com. Yeah.
Can't be easier than that. So I love it. All right. One last question as we're wrapping this thing up, and I'll give you a second to think about it. But the question is, and it kind of goes along with what Tracy's question was, but I always love, as we're wrapping things up, to give people one last pearl of wisdom. And specifically what I want to do is I want to speak to that person who's been inspired and touched by your story, what you've been saying, and maybe they're in their 50s, and maybe there's a part of them that's wondering, am I late? Did I miss the train? Do I have a next season? Is there something to be done? And they know deep down there probably is, but there's a little bit of doubt. I want you to just offer them one last pearl, and I'll give you a second to think about it. You've been so generous, but I'm going to ask for more because that's what I do. But guys, as Sheri's thinking about this, again, the book that we've been talking about is The Beautiful No and Other Tales of Trial, Transcendence, and Transformation. It's absolutely beautiful, fun read, inspiring read. You're going to love it. Grab it, and you will be glad that you did. All right, bring us home, Sheri. What's one last piece of wisdom you'd want to share with that person that's maybe a little on the fence? They want to believe, but they need that extra shove.
This is what I said to myself. This is what woke me for the possibilities that, gosh, maybe I was only halfway through my life. What am I doing with this second half? If not now, when? And even more disruptive. And if not now, maybe never. And that maybe never lit a fire inside of me saying, no, this is a different time in the human experience, where when you're in your late 40s, 50s, early 50s, you might just be halfway through. What are you going to do? What life force is going to come through you for the next 30, 40, 50 years? What else do you have to offer? Maybe your glory days are ahead of you. And if I can say I know that to be true, so can you.
I love it. Thanks for bringing us home, landing that plane. That was fantastic. You were the bomb. We love you. Thank you so much for the good that you're bringing into the world and the great stuff that you've done. But I have a feeling it pales in a comparison to what's coming. So thanks so much for being so generous and joining us. We'll look forward to having you back on a future episode. Awesome. Thanks, Sheri.